Senator Ruchti.
Mr. President, to debate against the bill.
You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have some concerns with the bill, and I hope you don't mind if I just take a few minutes to express those. If this bill was strictly applicable to Bayer, to Roundup, it might be a more difficult decision or an analysis. My interactions with Bayer have been positive. They employ a lot of Idahoans, including in my own community. They're good jobs that allow those employees to send their kids to college. My interactions have been positive. But then again, it might not be that easy. Bayer says that they've lost about 50% of these cases and won about 50%. In fact, they acknowledge they've lost a little more than they won. And I assume those are just the cases that went to trial. We're not talking about the cases that have been settled under confidential settlement agreements. Now, we have heard that in those cases where they've lost in court, that they've got some rulings that the judge ruled on evidence in a way that they didn't want. And I get that. Judges make dozens of rulings in cases. When I try cases, I get rulings I don't like. I get some rulings I do like. So I understand what they're saying. Some go your way, some don't. Frankly, I don't know what to make of the cases. I learned a long time ago when another attorney tells you about their case, you're not hearing everything. And jurors struggle with everything. They get expert opinions, both scientific and medical. They hear facts. They get to see documents. I don't know what to make of it because I wasn't there. I do know one other thing. I know about an individual who has filed one of these claims. He's from Pocatello. He's one of Pocatello's favorite sons. I've provided you with a letter, unsolicited, that he sent me that I received this morning. That letter is from Merrill Hodge. Some of you may recognize his name. He grew up in Pocatello. He played football for Highland High School, then went on and played running back for Idaho State University, then went on to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's also been an ESPN analyst. That's where many people in Idaho probably have seen him. And he did that until about 2017. But in 2019, he was one of over 18,000 people to file a claim due to Roundup. In 2003, he was diagnosed with stage 2 non-Hodgkin lymphoma, and now he's in his late 50s. But as a teenager, he worked in a farm field at the Shiazawa Farms. If you're from Southeast Idaho, you may know Shiazawa Farms. He mixed and sprayed Roundup on both crops and on plants. My mother-in-law reminded me about this case the other day when we were out having lunch. My wife happened in high school was Merrill Hodge's brother, and my wife were boyfriend and girlfriend in high school. For some reason, my mother-in-law still keeps track of my wife's old boyfriends. I have not figured that out after 30 years of marriage. But I know as little about Merrill's case as I do about all these others. So I'm not telling you that Merrill's case is valid. I'm not telling you that any of the cases against Bayer for Roundup are valid or not valid. I just don't know. Here's what I do know. This statute that we're about to pass is not just about Bayer. It's not just about Roundup. This statute provides liability protection for any corporation, multinational, multi-billion, who produces pesticide or other chemicals similar to it. It protects all corporations. both good actors and bad, because that's what we do. That's the rule of law. We don't write laws that protect individuals or our favorite people. We write laws of general application. Let me just walk you through how these cases work so you understand what it is we are protecting these corporations from if we pass this bill. To hold a corporation accountable for harms it causes the public with a product it manufactures, we use Idaho's products liability laws. Every state has products liability laws, but they're state law. They're not federal. You have three options. If a product has harmed you, you have three options under products liability law. The first is a design defect. That means with a little extra money you could have, it was possible to design this product in a safer manner. Think of a table saw. With a little extra money, you can put a guard on it. Doesn't cost much, and it makes the product much safer. If you were in today's world, if you were to make a table saw without a guard, you could be subject to a design defect lawsuit. Then there's the manufacturing defect. You manufactured it according to the design, but it didn't come out right. So, for example, that same guard didn't do the job it was supposed to. You manufactured it improperly, and the guard flips off, and people are injured from it. Those are not what people use to file lawsuits against pesticide producers. They use the duty to warn. That's the third option in these products liability suits. So, what does that mean? If you have a product that is it's dangerous by design, it's manufactured properly, but it is dangerous to the public, you have a duty to warn the public about the product and what it can do so the public can make a knowledgeable and informed decision about whether they want to use the product, and if so, how. That's what we have with these pesticide cases. All right, so that's why it's important that people bring these claims to do so in court. This law would prevent individuals from making their claim in court. Keep in mind, one of the advantages of being able to make this claim in court is the discovery process. If a corporation has found out that their product causes cancer, for example, let's say they find that out, they also know that their workers suffer from cancer at higher rates than the general population, they have evidence that there's something wrong with their product. They can take that information, put it on a shelf, they can go out and they can pay for additional studies from friendlier organizations that will study their product and give them answers they like. Any they don't like, they put on a shelf. If you can't file a lawsuit and go through the discovery process, depositions, requesting documents, you're never going to know that these studies are on a shelf somewhere. Discovery is kind of like a public records request for private companies. If you don't have that ability, you'll never see that evidence. So what are we left with? Well, we're left with a federal agency, the EPA, or some sub-agency. Maybe they'll protect us. But did you know these corporations can go lobby these federal agencies? They can come to them. They don't bring this study over here. They bring the studies that work for them. And they go to the EPA and they say to the EPA, look, it's safe, and this study says it's safe, and this study says it's safe. So what are you going to put on the label? The EPA doesn't necessarily have the ability or even the guidance, the requirements to do that sort of detailed work. And they don't have the ability to go find these studies. That's what trial lawyers do. That's what litigation allows. I'm not trying to convince you that trial lawyers are heroes. If you've come to that conclusion, then I'll let you go there. But before you condemn lawsuits, before you condemn trial lawyers for the damage they cause, I want you to keep this in mind. And you may already know this. There is only one place that a single solitary citizen of this state, even of this country, can go toe-to-toe with a corporation, a multi-billion, multinational corporation, and have a shot at getting justice. And it's not in these halls, and I'm not being overly critical of how this process works, but it's not in these halls, and it's not in the executive branch, and it's not with the federal government and all of its agencies. It's in a courtroom where that individual standing next to their attorney can stand toe-to-toe with the corporation and say, you caused me harm, this is my evidence, bring your evidence, and let's let 12 people we don't know, listen to it and decide what they think. That's not a bug of the system. It's by design. That's how the framers felt it should be. That the weak, that the unprivileged should be able to stand up against the powerful and seek justice, because that's what America is. Thank you, Mr. President.